Every foot of ground and every last inch of civilization is worth defending with your life. Our own fight for the West does not begin on the battlefield. It begins with our minds, our wills, and our souls. Our freedom, our civilization, and our survival depend on these bonds of history, culture, and memory. And today as ever, Poland is in our heart, and its people are in that fight. Just as Poland could not be broken, I declare today for the world to hear that the West will never, ever be broken. Our values will prevail, our people will thrive, and our civilization will triumph.
Now, when I listen to the speech, I keep thinking, what does a typical social justice warrior hear? All this stuff about civilization, the West, freedom, it's everything the modern left despises. And that part about defending with your life, it must sound like a foreign language to people who think pronouns trump patriotism. So it's no wonder the very liberal Vox writer Sarah Wildman said the speech sounded like an alt-right manifesto because it mentioned family and country. That's how normal stuff is viewed these days. It's got to be weird for leftists to hear a man championing the right to pursue a better life, free from pernicious ideologies that seek to limit freedom, that seek to punish you. It must be hard for the left to hear that when they champion Women's March organizer Linda Sarsour, who says stuff like this.
I hope that when we stand up to those who oppress our communities, that Allah accepts from us that as a form of jihad, that we are struggling against tyrants and rulers, not only abroad in the Middle East or in the other side of the world, but here in these United States of America, where you have fascists and white supremacists and Islamophobes reigning in the White House.
Yeah. If that's a role model, then all this freedom talk must be sickening. To them, hearing a leader talk about those in the past who died to protect an idea, not an identity, how patriotism matters, not just pigment, I guess that's got to be gross. And to see the Polish cheering this message and this man, a man despised by coddled undergrads who think a nipple ring is an achievement. It must be weird for the ones who slowly realize that maybe this guy makes sense, but they can't admit it because it's Donald Trump. It might not hurt to read his speech in a quiet room, divorced from the voice you think you hate. You might learn that personal freedom is about safe spaces for everyone, not just you. So, Dana, it sounded like an alt-right manifesto. Technically, then all of our ancestors who fought in World War II are alt-right.
Right, and it is interesting to look at everybody's different perspective. But I do think a lot on the left had a preconceived notion of what the speech would be, and they were going to say this no matter what the words were. Yeah. So they didn't actually listen to the speech, because at this point, they're beyond listening. They're just wanting to spew it out. But
could a typical kid brainwashed in leftist politics even begin to understand this speech?
I think you can if you read the script.
Yes.
I did that. I read the actual text, and it's totally different. This was a celebration of Western civilization. Yeah. It was a warning against encroaching socialism, and it all starts with borders. This was a celebration of borders. If you're a Polish citizen and your country has been invaded and your borders have been erased, it's still your land, Donald Trump was saying. And from that land comes culture and comes history and comes pride. And I think that's something worthy to celebrate. But it was also about freedom and God, which the left hates. And I said this before, he ties in America's arc of history with Poland's arc of history, fighting the Nazis and the communists and all of those oppressive people. But the commonality is the belief in God. And I think that's something that's very important. And then he tied it all together and he says, these are the goals of the West. Our goal is to defeat and destroy ISIS. Our goal is to defend our civilization. And then he did this kind of nifty pivot where he tied it into draining the swamp. Yeah. And he says these rules and regulations, you know, it's not about that. And it's not about the powerful, it's about the people. And he brought himself down to the streets. And we talked about that just a moment ago. And I think that's where he really connected. And you heard those chants, Donald Trump, Donald Trump.
Yeah, Juan, I think a Democrat could have made that speech 40 or 50 years ago, right?
Yeah, different time. I mean, what you think that he said and trying to like change it up. One of the things I thought that was most powerful was the prerequisite for the success of Western civilization is not material riches, economic prosperity, and military might on their own are not sufficient. Then he goes on to discuss about the confidence in core Western values such as free speech, the equality of women, respect for individual rights, the rule of law, and the affirmation of faith and family. That should have been fine for the left, and it should be really well accepted for people of faith and people of religious background, be it Democrat or Republican.
Well, when he's going after the intelligence agencies and the news media, I think, boy, Vladimir Putin, he must think, gosh, this is great.
Especially when he then criticized Vladimir Putin pretty strongly. We'll talk about that later, though, America. The president